story, we get deeper into the conversation between Tae Sung and Woo Sin in Adama's episode 2. And how, after learning that no one probably knows about Tae Sung's true identity, he tries to shoot Woo Sin. Continuing from that point, Hae-soo saves the writer from imminent death after she gets there just in time. The entire incident gets to Ms. Kwan's ears as well, and she is shocked that Tae Sung would do such a thing. Everyone is called to meet Chairman Kwan, and Tae Sung tells him that it was just a big misunderstanding and he thought that Woo Sin was trespassing. Meanwhile, Hae-soo mentions that she didn't think of Woo Sin to be suspicious at all, and now, the chairman is at a loss at the two different accounts. Just then, Ms. Kwan rushes inside and starts to question everyone around to know why all of them were out in the woods. Woo Sin, however, refuses to answer and instead asks to speak to the chairman in private. Outside the office, Ms. Kwan warns Hae-soo to stay clear of Woo Sin because he, apparently, gives off a leery vibe. Hae-soo doesn't buy it and shows her where she belongs. Kwan then asks Tae Sung what he found to be suspicious about Woo Sin, but his answers are not satisfactory enough for Ms. Kwan. Inside the office, Woo Sin assures the chairman that Tae Sung probably interpreted the scene according to his own emotion and bias, considering he is there to protect and be suspicious of everyone. Chairman Kwan asks him why he was in the woods in the first place, and his answer shocks Ms. Kwan later on. He was, apparently, taking a walk. Although Ms. Kwan is skeptical and continues to nag the chairman, this time around, he's not having any of it. Later on, Woo Sin asks Tae Sung to keep up his end of the bargain and exclude him from constant surveillance. He declines to do so, stating that it's not as easy as it seems, but does warn him about Ms. Kwan. She has a nasty habit of poisoning people. They go back and forth with the threats, and in the end, Tae Sung asks him whether he's sure that Adamas is really at the house. Woo Sin reflects that it must be since its owner is here. Meanwhile, Soki faces problems at work when her story about Wang Byung-chul does get to go on air. However, that frustration gets quenched a bit when Soo Hyeon calls to meet her. At the cafe, Soo Hyeon questions Seo-hee's intentions behind going so strongly against Chong-woo, but she convinces him that there's something else going on here. Intrigued, Soo Hyeon agrees to meet the witness who apparently gave false testimony. Back at Haesong, Woo Sin investigates the house, being followed closely by Hae-soo. As he tries to explain, trying to break into a closed room, Hae-soo makes him even more uncomfortable with her questions. In the end, Woo Sin is left flustered after she leaves as Mrs. Oh keeps a close eye on him. Regardless of this setback, Woo Sin doesn't stop his exploration of the estate. Meanwhile, Tae Sung contacts Kong Hyuk Pil to let him know about Woo Sin and his intentions. Hyuk Pil is a little taken aback and asks Tae Sung to be very careful of Woo Sin and to get rid of him quickly and quietly so that their plans are not hampered. On the other hand, Soo Hyeon visits Won Jong and catches him in a lie. Soo Hyeon refuses to leave until he tells him the truth, at which Won Jong tells him that he did indeed see his father with Chong-woo that night, although he didn't see him wearing the jacket. Soo Hyeon continues to catch the inconsistencies in his account, and in a fit of rage and discomfort, Won Jong asks him why Chong-woo would agree to something like this otherwise. Regardless, he tells him to leave and to never come back. He doesn't have anything else to tell him. Outside the apartment complex, Soo Hyeon and Seo-hee discuss that even though the truth comes out, the real killer cannot stand trial since the statute of limitations is up. Soo Hyeon asks Seo-hee why she is so interested to solve the case, and she simply mentions that an innocent man shouldn't have to die in prison. At Haesong Estate, Ms. Kwan is annoyed at Mrs. Oh's intel about Woo Sin snooping around the house. But she's further concerned when she learns of the metal pin in his hand that no one knew about before this and was never mentioned in the medical records. Anyway, Woo Sin continues to explore the house and finds something fascinating in the chairman's office, a raised floor that might contain something underneath. Before he can get into it, however, Chairman Kwon gets to the office and Woo Sin saves his back by mentioning the interview that they had apparently decided to have. In said interview, there's an exposition dump regarding the Adamas and how it came to be. It's fascinating stuff and describes the lore of the beautiful diamond arrow aptly. Woo Sin mentions wanting to see the real thing sometime soon, and the chairman keeps it vague, hinting that it's probably not an option for the writer. Woo Sin and Ms. Kwon go head to head again, with him mentioning how they need to come to an agreement as long as he is working for the chairman. Ms. Kwon is left infuriated after the conversation and sends Secretary Yoon to fetch something, which Hae-soo catches. Meanwhile, Won Jong calls and lets team leader Lee know about Soo Hyeon's visit and that he's asking some very uncomfortable questions. Lee mentions that they should visit Soo Hyeon. Digging into his father's death might be heroic but can lead to him dying young like his father. Lee meets Yeon-jo later on, and Soo Hyeon's digging amuses him as he laments the reason people can't let go of the past and move on and directs Lee to take care of the problem. Meanwhile, Soo Hyeon wonders what the truth can be since the more he digs into it, the deeper the filth gets. As Chief Young of Team A gets ready to murder someone, Ms. Kwon learns that Woo Sin does actually have metal plates in his hand, information that she isn't able to digest for long as the chairman calls her to his office. Infuriated, Ms. Kwon goes to harass Woo Sin and reminds him that the chairman doesn't actually like him, he likes him because Woo Sin resembles Min-jo. Amused, Woo Sin asks what that is about, and Kwon realizes that she has said too much. Ms. Kwon looks like she's going to have a coronary and Woo Sin's smirk doesn't help. He seems like he's enjoying himself, and when he sees the clearly fabricated medical records, Woo Sin wonders if it's the mystery person's work. Intrigued, he goes to Hae-soo to tell her what she knows, that she fabricated the records in order to keep her safe, because otherwise, everyone would know that she invited him. Hae-soo agrees to helping him in the past, and it has something to do with the first scene of episode 1. Meanwhile, Chairman Kwon asks Ms. Kwon to lay off Woo Sin as he works for him. In a flashback to his interaction with his ghostwriter, Woo Sin spins a tale of following Hae-soo as directed by the chairman as the reason for being in the woods. Things take a turn when an annoyed Ms. Kwon mentions Min-jo in front of the chairman and gets her head split open as a result. Back in the garden, Woo Sin asks Hae-soo how she knows what she wrote in the arrow. In a flashback, we see the letter telling Woo Sin that his father's murder has more to it than he knows, and the murder weapon is Adamas. She mentions that she got to know the information from Yeon-jo, who rattled on when he was high. Meanwhile, Yeon-jo tells Lee to make the murder look like a suicide instead of a disappearance. Hae-soo asks him why he's here, to which Woo Sin mentions that he's going to steal the Adamas to reveal that it was used as a murder weapon. Surprisingly, Hae-soo wasn't the one who invited Woo Sin to the Hae-song, which is something that scares her. At home, Soo Hyeon, meanwhile, is followed by someone. Soo Hyeon learns from the news that Won Jong killed himself, a rather surprising and coincidental turn of events. However, before he can wrap his mind around everything, he sees the person in his home. Episode 2 ends here. Adamas Episode 2 Review. The mystery gets thicker. Let's be honest. It seems like he has an inkling of what's going on and who's going after whom in Adamas. That being said, I have a feeling that things are going to get turned upside down, and nothing is as it seems. I appreciate the little bits of humor that are included, and Ms. Kwon is so annoying that she's funny. The series is paced well such that it's not too fast, and neither is it too slow. Moreover, the cinematography is just so dang good. Overall, it's too early to make a judgment about the show, but I am enjoying the slow mystery and the various angles that are present in the storyline right now. Let's hope the eventual revelation doesn't turn out to be a dud. Check out Adamas on TVN and Disney+. For details, episode-wise synopsis, detailed reviews and explanations of your favorite Korean or other country series and movies, please tell us in comment section. Thanks for watching.